The night in this city is a living thing. It breathes the rotten air of the sewers, whispers with the voices of scum, hides in the shadows of broken street lights. Here, the streets are covered not only with cracks, but also with fear, and every movement can be the last. The agent glides down the alley, his silhouette blending into the darkness. He's used to this world, where danger is part of life. There's a gun hidden under his jacket, but he knows that guns don't always save the day. Sometimes the enemy wears a uniform, and then ammunition doesn't solve anything. A black Crown Victoria, a standard police car, whizzes by. A second, and the headlights slip on the wet asphalt. The agent freezes in the shadows, heart clenched in anticipation. These streets have taught him a simple rule. If you're spotted by the wrong people, you disappear. Somewhere behind is the sound of a broken bottle, the hoarse voice of someone who lost hope long ago. But in the distance, it's different. Radio interference, short, sharp, like breathing before an attack. He senses it before he even turns around. First, there's a slight squeak of tires, then the car doors slam, and an ominous silence lingers in the air. It stretches, stretching out the seconds as if time were mocking him. "Hey, you!" The voice cuts through the night darkness like a knife. Cold, confident, filled with authority. The agent doesn't need to look to know who it is. Policeman. The agent slowly turns around. He already knows this is a bad meeting. In this neighborhood, they don't ask questions. They just make decisions. And today, it looks like someone has already decided for him. A siren howls somewhere in the distance, dissolving into the thick air of the night. Its sound is distant, but it always means one thing. Someone is about to fall prey. The headlights flash sharply, blinding the agent. His pupils constrict, his instinct to take a step back, but it's too late. "Hands up, nigger. On the ground now." The white cop's voice sounds like a gunshot. Rough, soaked with contempt. There's no doubt in it, no attempt to understand. Just a judgment delivered instantly. The agent remains motionless. He's seen this before. He knows how it works. If you're black, you're guilty. The policeman approaches, the flashlight in his hand picking out the sharp shadows on the brick walls of the alley. In his other hand is a pistol, already unsecured. His finger on the trigger trembles, not from fear, but from adrenaline. He's enjoying it. "I said, get down. Face down, you nigger motherfucker." The agent slowly raises his hands, feeling cold sweat trickle down his back. He could pull out his ID, tell him who he really is, but he knows how that could end. He's seen how even hands held up don't save the day. "I'm just going home, officer, no gun. I don't care where you go. There's enough people like you around here already." The policeman smirks. His face is twisted with a grimace of power, the same power that allows him to decide who will breathe and who will be left lying in a pool of blood, becoming just another statistic. The agent sees his eyes. This isn't just a cop. This is a hunter. And now he's found a new victim. Let's pause for a moment. Write in the comments where you're hearing our stories from and whether you've encountered something similar in your life. Your thoughts and opinions are very important. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. And now we continue. Hands behind your head, face down. The cop's voice cuts through the air like a blade. He's not just giving an order, he's savoring every word. It's not just a detention. This is a play where he is the main actor, and in front of him is another suspect who must play his part, the victim. The agent slowly raises his hands, fingers interlocked behind his head. His body tensed, but not from fear. He learned long ago to hide the fear deeper, leaving only a cold calm on the outside, but even that won't help. He knows what's about to happen. He knows because he's seen it dozens of times, because he's heard people like him try to explain it, but they didn't get the chance, because he knows the simple truth. If you are black, you are already guilty. He takes a step back, trying to remain calm. I'm unarmed. Don't do anything stupid. Stupid? The cop snickers, his gun pointed directly at the agent's chest. Shut up and get down on the ground, or do you need some help? The agent hesitates, not because he wants to disobey, but because he knows he's not the first to stand in that pose in front of someone like this cop. And too many people haven't gotten back up before. I'm undercover. I'm an officer. Shut up, nigger. Get down, I said. Just as he begins to drop to his knees, a sharp blow to his back knocks him to the ground. Metal meets spine. Heavy, merciless. Pain pierces through his body, his breathing ragged. He falls face down, palms scratching the dirty asphalt. Laughter can be heard behind me. That's it. That's better. A dark boot presses his head to the ground, crushing him. The puddle beneath his cheek smells something rotten, ironic. That's exactly how they treat him. Like garbage. He hears the officer rummaging through his pockets. Rough hands unzip his jacket, tug at his belt. This isn't a search anymore. This is bullying. What have we got here? Cell phone? Did you steal it? The agent gritted his teeth, feeling the anger growing inside. He knew this night would be dangerous. But what he didn't know was that it wasn't criminals he'd have to fight. It would be against those who wear the badge. I don't like you, nigger. You know why? The policeman stoops closer, his voice becoming a venomous whisper. Because you're all the same. You think you can walk like white people, talk like white people, but inside you are still dirt. The agent clenched his fists, his heart pounding, muffled and heavy. If he makes one sudden move now, he'll be shot. If he stays down, he'll be humiliated even more. But if he tells the truth, they won't believe him. There is a choice, but there really isn't one. The asphalt beneath his face smells of damp, gasoline, and blood. Someone else's or his own, the agent can no longer tell. The weight of the boot squeezes his chest and his breathing is ragged but steady. The main thing is not to show fear. He feels the policeman leaning closer. He stinks of cigarettes and sweat, and that smell is as disgusting as his words. You know what pisses me off the most about people like you? The cop speaks almost affectionately, like he's being honest with a friend. You think if you put on normal clothes, walk around looking important, you'll be like us. The agent clenches his teeth, but he doesn't say a word. He's not giving the cop what he wants, a reaction. But you can be seen a mile away. The stench of poverty, crime, cheap living, everything you are is written on your foreheads. You think I can't see it? Cold metal touches the back of his head. The agent freezes. His heart is pounding, but his body remains immovable. He feels the cop's finger pressing the bolt, feels his breath at his ear. This isn't a detention. This is an execution. You're all the same, you know. Some of you are hiding in alleys, robbing, selling drugs. Others are trying to be something they'll never be. But I see right through you. The weapon presses harder, as if trying to press his head into the ground. You were born a piece of dirt, nigger, and you gonna die a piece of dirt. The agent closes his eyes. His fingers dig into the ground, his breathing slowing. Officer, his voice is steady, but there's a storm inside. You didn't even ask my name. The cop laughs. It's deafening. Cold. I don't care what your name is. Finger pulls the trigger. Snap. The gun's not firing. He's just scary. Enjoying the moment, stretching it out, savoring every second. The agent knows it's a game, but there are no rules to this game. And if he doesn't find a way out, he loses it. The gun still rests against the back of his head, the cold metal burning through his skin, but the agent doesn't flinch. He's seen death, looked it in the eye, but now he's not just facing a killer, he's facing a system. He takes a breath, full of dirty air mixed with the smell of sweat, gasoline, and contempt. A breath that could be his last. "You're making a mistake, officer." The cop stops talking for a second but doesn't put the gun away. "Are you serious? You expect me to believe that?" He snorts, his voice filled with icy contempt. "You niggers are all the same. When you get in the shit, you talk smart." The agent slowly raises his head without changing his facial expression. "I'm an agent with the Federal Bureau. I work undercover." A second of silence. It could have brought hope, but not this time. The cop suddenly grabs his jacket roughly and yanks it upward, forcing him to his knees. The agent feels his muscles protesting, but he doesn't let the pain take over his mind. "Fed, huh?" The cop looks at him, head bowed. There's not doubt on his face, but outright mockery. "Of course he is. Probably on an important mission too, huh? Maybe a hero?" The agent is silent. The cop comes closer. He's almost whispering now. "Tell me, nigger, what makes you think your words mean anything?" He hesitates, but then, as if taking pleasure in it, exhales. "You could be a doctor, a judge, a president. I don't care. To me, you're just dirt that needs to know its place." The agent looks into his eyes. There's no doubt in them, no fear, only the certainty of his own power. He's already passed judgment, and no words will change his mind. The thick darkness of the night seemed to shrink around them. The shadows of the buildings witnessing this silent drama that no one would see or stop. Something like doubt flashed in the officer's eyes for a moment. Maybe his voice would have wavered if there had been witnesses around. Maybe he would have asked for ID, made sure he was really an agent. Maybe he'd back off. But they have no one. Just this narrow, damp-smelling alleyway, and two men, one holding a gun and the other just another possible statistic. The thought vanishes as quickly as it came. Doubt gives way to rage, that blind, seething hatred that's been building up for years. He won't let this nigger feel important, won't let him look at him without fear, without submission, without gratitude that he's still breathing. His fingers clutch the handle of the baton, and the next moment it is out of its holster. He moves quickly, habitually. His body knows what to do. His hands remember how to strike, to inflict pain, but leave no marks unless required. But that doesn't matter now. The first blow strikes the agent's shoulder, causing a sharp flash of pain that echoes in his bones. The second one hits him in the ribs. He hears a cracking sound, feels something inside him shift. The air escapes his lungs with a tearing groan, but he doesn't scream. He won't give that bastard the satisfaction of hearing his pain. But that's not enough for the officer. He wants more. He wants to see him on the ground, broken. He wants to see this cocky nigger piece of shit crawling in the dirt, gasping in humiliation. He wants to trample him not only physically, but mentally, to let him know that he doesn't belong here, that he has no chance to win in this world. The baton soars upward again and lands on the back of his head. The world in front of the agent's eyes explodes with stars, a ringing void for a moment. His legs shake, but he holds on. If he falls, that cop will beat him until he stops moving. A new blow on his legs. Pain pierces his body, almost paralyzing, but he clenches his teeth. He holds on. He knows this man isn't just hitting him. He's hitting everyone who has ever dared to think he could be an equal. Each blow is not only physical retribution, it's a show of power. But even after all this, even feeling the warm blood running down his temple, even breathing through clenched teeth, the agent doesn't give him the most important thing of all: fear. He doesn't beg for mercy. He doesn't beg. And that's what drives a cop crazy. He wants to see fear, wants to hear pleading, wants this man to break. But the agent doesn't break down. The officer is breathing hard, clutching his baton so tightly that his knuckles are white. He prepares to strike again, no longer thinking about the consequences. He will forget this case, as he has forgotten hundreds of others, as the system allowed him to forget. But this incident will not forget him. Let's pause for a little more. Write in the comments where you're hearing our stories from and whether you've encountered something similar in your life. Your thoughts are important, and every story deserves to be heard. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. And now we continue. The agent can barely stand on his feet, his body aching from the impact, the world around him swaying as if the air had become viscous, heavy, sticky, like an oil slick that absorbs light. The alley no longer feels like just a narrow space between buildings. It's becoming a trap, a prison without walls, where his life hangs on the thin line between consciousness and oblivion. But he's still standing. He's still alive. The policeman is breathing hard, clutching his baton so tightly that his knuckles turn white. There is still rage in his eyes, but behind that rage there is something else. Uncertainty, confusion, quick, fleeting, but present. Perhaps he feels he has gone too far. Perhaps he realizes that this is no longer just fun, no longer just a lesson he taught some nigger bastard who decided to hold his head up too high. But even if a shadow of doubt lingers in him, it means nothing. The agent sees it. He sees how, deep down, this man is incapable of admitting error, unable to let go. Because if he lets the situation go, it means he admits he made a mistake, and admitting a mistake to someone like him means weakness. It means that he is not the master of the situation. He can't let that happen. The world falls sideways, blood pulsing in his temples, but the agent realizes this is his only chance. His voice comes out hoarse, breaking through the pain and broken ribs. He shouts what he should have said even earlier, but nothing changes. The policeman freezes, blinks. Realization flashes in his eyes for a second, clinging to consciousness, to common sense. His face contorts with a grimace. It's not fear, it's not remorse. It's hatred made absolute. No, this man is incapable of backing down, unable to believe that his prey isn't just another street urchin, that he's facing someone who could tear his life apart with one phone call. But he doesn't see it as a threat. He sees it as a challenge. Years of impunity, of being sure of his own rightness, that the world belongs to him, that he is the authority, that he decides who lives and who dies, will not allow him to change course. The world narrows again, becoming this one alleyway, this one moment. Until a few moments ago, he was a hunter. Now he felt the situation beginning to spiral out of his control. And that's what makes it even more dangerous. He's not going to let go of his prey. It's too late. Time slows down. Everything shrinks to one moment, 1 second, one decision that will change everything. The officer's finger trembles on the trigger. His face is contorted with anger. His nostrils flared, his breathing ragged, but his eyes are cold, Dead, no fear in them, no remorse, only rage. That nigger dared to cross him, dared to challenge him, dared to talk like his words mean something. It's too late for a retreat. If he lets him go now, it means he's admitting a mistake. It would mean he was weak, that he almost killed an innocent man. But he doesn't see an innocent man in front of him. He doesn't see an undercover agent. He doesn't see a human being. He sees a problem, and problems need to be fixed. The hand clutching the gun no longer trembled. The tension in his body disappears, replaced by an icy calm. He knows what to do. Done it before, will do it again. There are no cameras in this alley, no witnesses, nothing to stop him from finishing what he started. Another black man in the mud. Another case that will be closed without going into detail. Assault on an officer. So simple, so familiar. He exhales, his fingers clenching harder, the pressure on the trigger building. The agent sees it. He feels it. He doesn't just hear his heart thudding in his chest. He feels it beating in his temples, in his wrists, in his whole body. He doesn't need to see the future to know that in a second the world will explode with the flash of a gunshot, and that will be the end. Not just the end of it. The end of truth. The end of a chance to make a difference. This man is not going to back down. He never has. He hates him for the very fact of his existence, for the color of his skin, for standing in front of him and not breaking. The agent realizes there's no choice. Either he'd make a move or he'd be just another nameless body on the cold pavement. But there's no time left. The officer's finger makes a final movement. The world shrinks to a single bright blast of fire, a flash that illuminates the alleyway for a moment, pulling out of the darkness the outlines of brick walls, the dirt on the pavement, the shadows that froze in a dead dance. A gunshot, and the muffled, jerky sound of a body hitting the ground. Silence envelops the alley, swallowing the echoes as if they never existed. The city continues to live its life, indifferent to what happened in its heart. Passers-by go about their business, not noticing anything around the corner, not paying attention to what is left in the shadows. The body lies motionless. The blood slowly spreads on the asphalt, mixing with the dirt, leaving a dark, sticky trail. A warm, living person turns into silent flesh that no longer cares what happens to it. The officer stands over him, still clutching his weapon, his chest heaving heavily as if after a long run. Adrenaline is in his veins, deafening, hot, but his mind is cold. A plan is already forming in his head, quick, precise, unmistakable. It's not the first time, and it certainly won't be the last. He knows what he has to do. Touching the radio, calling for backup, voice steady, collected. Officer assaulted, suspect armed, shot in self-defense. The words flowed smoothly, as if he'd rehearsed them hundreds of times, and he was really practicing. By the time the cars pull up, by the time the blue lights flash, by the time the other officers surround the scene, this story will have already been written. Cameras are down. There are no witnesses. Documents will be missing, if they existed at all. The system is running smoothly. This shot, which no one heard, will be buried under piles of reports, protocols, reports. It's all done, clean by the book. Who will believe anything went wrong? Who would dare to ask questions? And if he dares, who will answer? The officer knows that the authority is always on his side. He is the law, and he decides what is true and what is false. A couple of sips of strong coffee, a pat on the back from his colleagues, nods of understanding. You did what you had to do. And while one more black man becomes a faceless case, one more smudged sheet in the archives, life continues its course. Only this night will never be the same again, because once the truth always finds its way into the light, but not today. Tonight she will remain in the dark, at the bottom of the alley, a bloodstain that will be washed away before dawn. What do you think? Want to dive even further into this suspenseful story? Ready to continue? The city wakes up as if nothing had happened. The first rays of the sun burst from the horizon, illuminating the streets where life flows as usual. Someone is rushing to work, someone is buying morning coffee, someone is laughing into the phone, discussing plans for the day. No one knows, no one has heard, no one has seen. The alley where it all happened is now clean. The blood has been washed away with jets of icy water, the bullet has been removed from the wall, and the agent's identification documents have disappeared. The cameras, for some reason, did not record the events. One accidentally malfunctioned, the other appeared to be pointed in a different direction. And even if someone heard something, who would want to talk? Who would dare to speak out against those who hold the law in their hands? At the station, the report is already written. The lines are neatly written. The words are chosen with surgeon's precision. Everything looks clean. The officer who was assaulted had to use his weapon. The suspect was aggressive, disobeyed orders. He attempted to draw his weapon. He threatened the officer's life. Shot fired in self-defense. Period, caption, case closed, handshakes, a pat on the shoulder. Understanding looks from colleagues who don't ask too many questions. It's done right, it's legal. No one will dig any deeper. No one will ask why that man was in that place. Why he stood with his hands up before the bullet pierced his body. Why he didn't fight back, but still lies now in the morgue labeled criminal. The news will mention the incident in passing. The headlines will print just enough to keep the public from asking too many questions. Police officer eliminates armed assailant on night patrol. The story will be simple, black and white, no details, but the family will find out. Somewhere in the apartment where the two uniformed men will knock in the morning, there will be a scream. The kind of scream that tears through walls but does not break through the silence of society. There, tears will run down the mother's cheeks, hands will clutch the photos, and a black hole will settle in her heart that will never be filled. But outside of this house, the world will remain indifferent. Journalists will be silent. There will be no trial. Power always covers its own. How many times has this happened before? How many more times is this going to happen? Truth will drown in lies. No one was looking for her. Write in the comments what you think about this story. Have you ever experienced racism or injustice in your life? We really need to hear your thoughts and your stories. We appreciate each and every one of you and thank you for being with us. If you enjoyed this issue, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like to support us. Write the phrase, "Silence also has a voice," in the comments so we know you listened to the end of this story. We wish you a good day and justice in your life.